Welcome, everybody. Another episode of In Hindsight, episode 86. I've been doing a lot more live streams than I've been doing just regular episodes. So it feels good to be able to put this out. Really, what this episode is going to be, guys, is my yearly Steeler prediction before the season, my 2023 Steelers predictions. Really just going to kind of talk about the record, talk about their team this year, kind of go a little in depth. Not going to be too long of an episode, but hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you guys missed a recent episode I did with my co-host Daniel J on the Unofficial Steelers podcast on his channel, check that out on his channel. You guys can also watch an episode of mine and Z's fantasy football draft, post-draft. Not our actual draft. We've done our draft, but a post-draft roundup talk show that him and I are doing about our draft and our league that we've had for years. That's up on my other channel with him, who are these guys. But with that being said, guys, hope you all are doing well. Thank you all for your support on my channel and the live streams. But let's get into this, everybody. Really, when we look at the Steelers this year in 2023, there's a lot of things to be excited about. There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of excitement. The Steelers last year, when we look at them last year, there was a lot of questions. There was a lot of uncertainty, questions, new quarterback, new management, some new faces on offense, on defense. There was just uncertainty. We didn't really know how it was going to go. And I had low expectations last year. I didn't think of them like I still just the fact of trusting Tomlin, of them having a winning record, but I didn't think that they would be a playoff team. I felt like a lot of things had to go right for them to be that last year. But I truly think they needed a year last year, especially with a lot of struggle, a lot of adversity, to really see who they are, where they were at, what they really ultimately needed, because they were never in a situation like that for quite a while. So now they went through that. They finished the year 9-8. Just gonna edit that out. We'll edit this. Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of In Hindsight, guys, episode 86. Guys, it's been a while since I've kind of done just a regular show like this. I've done a lot more live streams as of late, more so than just my regular videos. So it feels good to be able to get this out, guys. You guys missed a live stream with my co-host Daniel and I on his channel. Another episode of the Unofficial Steelers podcast. We talk about the game going into San Francisco, just kind of go in depth about some certain things. So you guys definitely want to check that out. But hope you all are doing well. Thank you all for your support on my channel and the chat for our live streams. It's all appreciated. This isn't going to be too long, but this is my yearly Steelers prediction video. And I wanted to do this right before the season started, where everything was pretty much set in stone. So with that being said, guys, let's start this here. When we look at the Steelers right now, there's a lot of reasons to be excited. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. Looking at them last year, let's start at last year. Looking at them last year, I didn't have a lot of expectations because there was a lot of newness. There was a new quarterback. There was some new coaching personnel, new management a little bit, some new faces on the offense, some new faces on the defense last year. And it was just an uncertain thing for me. And I felt like a lot of things had to go right for them to be a playoff team. But I still had faith in Mike Tomlin to be able to get something out of that group. And they ended up winning 9 games. we know the way a lot of the season went last year. There was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of struggle last year, and I felt like that they needed a season like that to really be able to go through that and see where they were at, see what they needed. Um, Maybe even a little bit of reality check in a way, because when you look at it, with there being a lot of newness, but then also a lot of, I feel like a lot of repetitiveness as well. And this isn't a knock on Kevin Colbert. This is not a knock on anything. They've done a phenomenal job over the years. But the Steelers, again, didn't really do a ton of crazy things in free agency going into last season. They had some new guys through their draft, through free agency, quarterback, on defense. You even look at a little bit on offense. But it felt like the status quo a little bit through the draft, some scraps in free agency, nothing that really blew me away. And so didn't have expectations. It was a wait and see, and there was a lot of struggle. But like I said, they needed that last year. And I think after the way last season ended, them going 2-6 and finishing 9-8 is great, truly great. And that's the way that you want to finish the season. That's the way you want to have a second half. And I actually picked them to win 9 games last year, just given the fact of believing in Mike Tomlin. But I really feel like last year was the season they needed. A transition season, a season really to see where you're at, a season of newness, and you had to really kind of let that come together, and it did. And it proved that the second half of the year last year. Let's transition into this season. Now, this season, they had a phenomenal draft. They have new management and a new general manager who had his first draft in his first offseason and absolutely hit it out of the park. The Steelers had an offseason that they have not quite had in quite a long time, where they actually went out of their way and made quite a handful of moves. They gave out some good contracts, and they really upgraded glaring needs that they needed upgraded on. Offensive line, a little bit of cornerback, getting deeper in certain positions. They just did a phenomenal job. And you can already tell as the offseason was going on and even ended that there was just this sense of newness, this sense of refreshment, new ideas, new decision making. And that's what every organization needs over time. And the NFL has changed. The way teams go about business, the way the league has changed in terms of play style, it has changed in so many ways compared to 10 years ago. So now the fact that the Steelers had new management now going into this offseason, tackled the draft, tackled free agency in just a great way. They had arguably the best offseason out of anybody. It just felt refreshing. It felt new. And with that being said, that's already a huge plus. Going into this year as well, you have a second-year quarterback who, in my opinion, should have started last year, but who had a good second half where he didn't turn the ball over. He made had a lot of better decision making, and had quite a couple game-winning drives. And I thought he did really a handful of things you want to see a rookie quarterback do. Going into year 2, there's a lot of expectations for Kenny Pickett to take a step forward. And I think what we saw in camp, and especially preseason, we really saw that. He's had an offseason where he's working with the offensive coordinator that he did not have last year. He's had an offseason where he's fully the guy, where he's working with the ones, where he's game planning with Matt Canada, where he's really the leader of this offense. And with where we sit right now before the season starts, there's a lot of excitement with what we've seen from him. And there's a lot of expectations from not just us fans, but really almost everybody for him to take a step of improvement and to be able to have a solid year 2. And I think we're going to see that. He's got a lot of good weapons on offense. Steelers have one of the best cores offensively in the league. Pickens, Deontay, Najee, Jalen Warren, Pat Freiermuth, drafting Darnell Washington, even a guy like a Connor Hayward that can make some plays, adding Allen Robinson, having Calvin Austin now, who they did not have last year. That's pretty dang good. They upgraded the offensive line. They signed Isaac Seumalo in free agency at left guard. They drafted Broderick Jones, who is not going to start right away, but did have a good camp. Dan Moore did as well. But Broderick Jones is 21. And the Steelers do things a lot of different ways than other teams do, where it's very rarely where you're going to see a high rookie draft pick start right away. It doesn't happen too often with this organization. But still, nonetheless, they did that. James Daniels, their right guard, had a great year last year. So there's already improvement at that interior. The Steelers' offensive line got better as the season went on. They ran the ball really well. But there's a lot of options there for Kenny Pickett, for Matt Canada, and what we've seen, at least a little bit of a glimpse in this preseason, the Steelers attacking the middle of the field, something they did not do last year, getting the ball down the field, pushing the ball down the field, testing the other team's secondaries. It was something that the Steelers didn't do really last year. And I definitely believe that there's at least some new concepts added to this playbook. And Matt Canada does not even need to become one of the top play callers, but he just needs to take a step forward. He needs to have some consistency, and he needs to add some modern day NFL offense into what he was doing. When we look at defensively, the Steelers last year struggled mightily defensively without TJ Watt. When he came back, it was really a flip of the script. The numbers don't lie with the Steelers, how they win games with TJ Watt. He's the best defensive player in football. I don't care what anybody says. I don't really see how there's anybody more valuable to their team alone than TJ Watt to the Steelers. But with that being said, the Steelers, the second half of the year, had one of the top defenses in points allowed. They really got things turned around. This year, when you look at them, adding Keanu Benton, a defensive tackle, the second round pick rookie. They signed Patrick Peterson. They draft Joey Porter Jr. They signed Desmond King, Shannon Sullivan in that slot position. They completely get rid of their inside linebackers from last year and bring in Cole Holcomb, Alandon Roberts, and Kawan Alexander. They also draft Nick Herbig and sign Marcus Golden on the edge. And they signed Keanu Neal at safety. Meanwhile, they lost Cameron Sutton and Terrell Edmonds on the defense, but I truly believe both those guys are replaceable players. As much as I wanted to see them bring both them back, I don't really think we're going to see too much of a drop-off necessarily from the secondary from them. But I think really the biggest thing defensively is being able to see how the new inside linebacking group really comes into play. I have some high hopes for Kawan Alexander. I hope Holcomb and Roberts can really just be some good run stoppers that this team has needed and has definitely missed. I don't think that their linebacker, I still don't think they have found that linebacker that they haven't had since Shazier, but I really have faith that this can at least be a better group and that we're going to see some things that they do that we did not see last year. So I at least have hope for that. Don't see why they can't lead the league in sacks again. I think that they'll be a really nice rounded defense that makes turnovers, but I don't really see any reason why this defense should not be a top 5 unit in this league. So overall, the Steelers got better. When we look at them right now, as they sit right now, they have a much better team than they had last year. They have a lot more depth. They have a second-year quarterback. They have a young offensive core that they've added some new pieces to. They've upgraded their offensive line. They move things around at inside linebacker. We got to see how that plays out, but you should at least see some better production there. They obviously have arguably the best pass rush in the league. You have some rookies that can make an impact right away, and you have a secondary that's still going to be able to take the ball. So at the end of the day, this is a deeper team, number one. This is a better team overall as a whole. And to be honest with you, I think this is the best Steelers team that they have put together since 2017. I truly believe that. I think that the Steelers have done a great job of not even just opening their window for this year, but even just long-term future-wise. I think there's a lot of optimism for their future. But when I look at them this season, man, there's a lot of things to be optimistic about, obviously defensively. But I even think offensively, with Kenny going into year 2, taking a step forward, George Pickens going into year 2. We saw what he could do last year. He's definitely going to be a much more of a focal point. I think Najee Harris is going to be able to run the ball better behind a better offensive line. So really, at the end of the day, guys, there's a lot of there's a handful of newness here, but there's also a handful of things that are guys playing into year 2 together that are going to that's going to transition better than it did last year, especially keeping different cores intact. When I look at the Steelers, I still don't really understand how people overlook them. I think more people in the media and people in general are coming around to them now than before in the offseason. And I think that we're seeing a lot of hype now around the Steelers before the season starts, after what they did in preseason. And even with their draft and free agency and everything like that, I think that there's a lot of people in the media who are coming around to them and have certain optimism expectations for them. There's people that think they'll win their division. There's people that think they'll be a playoff team. I don't disagree with that. But we really have to kind of see them really play this out first and foremost. There's still quite a handful of things to prove from this team, but overall, there's a lot of things to be excited about. And overall, this team should be a better team than what they were last year. So with that being said, I've sat down and I've gone through this team's schedule. I have sat down and have thought about this schedule. And this is a better schedule than they've had at least over the last 2 to 3 years. There's still some tough matchups on there. But really, when we look at it, I think there's a lot of favorable matchups the Steelers are going to favor in. And really, as I sat down and went week at a time, I have kind of found myself at 10 wins for them this year. I know on my podcast I did with Daniel, and I know on the show I did with Z that you guys, if you guys are subscribed to that channel, you will be seeing at some point as well, where Z and I sat through and went through each division and each team, looking at their schedules and predicting. But after the Steelers signed Desmond King and after the preseason, I even considered bumping them up to another game. I'm going to keep them at 10-7 right now, just to be reserved. But I could see this being an 11-win team. So I'm going to say 10-7 for the Steelers this year with a playoff berth. But I'm also would not be surprised if they won 11 games. I think that there's a lot of things about this team, man, like I said, that where they could have a really nice year, but I just think they did a great job overall this offseason at opening a window for this season and even just long term. But really, when I look at this team too, if I'm going to talk, like maybe mention some guys on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball that I think are going to have like some big or a big year, or even just some guys that might be under the radar. I think George Pickens is going to be our best offensive player, man. I think that he's going to have a really big year. I think that after this season, he's going to be a guy that's looked at as starting to transition into the upper tier of wide receivers. I think Najee Harris might possibly find himself entering a top 10 running back territory. I think he's going to have the best year of his career. That's not me saying I think that he's going to lead the league in yards or be a top 5 running back, but I think in terms of just an overall consistency, his yards per carry, even just from a total yardage standpoint, I think he's going to have the best year of his career. I'm excited to see a little bit of newness in this offensive line. I'm pretty optimistic about them finally being able to, the Steelers finally correcting some things with the line and its trajectory. When I look at the defensive side, aside from the stars, I'm a little optimistic about Cole Holcomb. I think he's somebody that can lead this team in tackles. He's somebody that gets off blocks. Quan Alexander's going to be a guy as well that they're going to utilize in passing situations, and I think that he was definitely somebody that was a great addition to this mix. I also just think, too, in terms of just their depth, man, I think that you're going to see some nice production from depth guys like a Nick Herbig. I think a little bit on the defensive line. I think Keanu Benton's going to become a starter sooner than later for them as this year goes on. Same with Joey Porter. I'm excited to see Desmond King in the slot, man. He's a very underrated player in this league, and adding him to the secondary really strengthened a spot the Steelers really needed some strength in. I think the Steelers defense is going to give some different looks. Patrick Peterson's not going to play on the outside all game. He's going to play a little bit of slot probably. He's played a little bit at safety throughout camp. They've put him back there. Keanu O'Neal's going to give them some new looks too. So there's a lot of different ways the Steelers can go about their defense, but overall, I think that some late offseason additions is great for this team. So I think those are a few guys to look out for. But yeah, I'm high on this team. I'm excited about them this year, guys. I think a lot of us Steeler fans are high on them. I think also we have to have some reservations as well. There's probably still going to be some gelling that's going to go along, possibly a little bit of more growing pains for the offense as they're still kind of young coming into their own. But I think that we're gonna see a nice leap forward offensively. Defensively, we already know the expectations that are there. But yeah, I think that overall, man, I think this is just a really solid team overall and a team that's has a great future for them to keep building on. And I think that's going to start this year. I truly do. So I'm very excited about it, guys. But I'm gonna stick with 10. I could see 11, but let's see just a little bit more before maybe we take a leap forward with another game. But yeah, I think that if the Steelers win double-digit games and make the playoffs, I think this would be a successful season, especially with all things considered. So, um, very excited, guys. I think Kenny's gonna have a nice year two, a nice jump, and a nice transition into year two. I think just their offense has a lot of playmakers. I think their lines can be better, and defensively, we know the expectations that are there. So I don't know, guys. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments on maybe some players that you guys are looking at as this season goes on that can maybe be a little bit under the radar, sleeper guys. Your offensive, defensive MVP for this team. What's your guys' ceiling floor for this team? You guys think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs? Do you think they're going to be a double-digit win team like I do? Let me know in the comment section, guys. But I'm going to end it on that, everybody. Just wanted to come on here. Not too long of a video, but come on here, give some thoughts, give some predictions, break some things down, go a little in depth, a little in detail on certain things that we're talking about. But let me know in the comment section, guys. But in the meantime, keep up with your notifications on YouTube with mine and Daniel's live streams. Also, guys, check out Who Are These Guys with my friend Z. We talk sports, we talk video games, we talk entertainment, we talk Universal Disney parks. We do rankings. We did Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader test for both of us. So it's just fun, some fun stuff that we throw in there as well. That will be in the link down below. But your guys' support means everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the live streams again next week. But in the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you all for your support. Hopefully, Steelers take the W on Monday. I think they're going to take the win against San Francisco. But that is your 2023 Steelers season predictions, guys. We'll end it right there. We will see you later.